There we go. Okay, cool. All right, everyone. Well, welcome to the June Tempo community call. There's definitely a lot of cool stuff going on. We've done a ton of new features since the last community call, so we'll kind of walk through some of those. TraceQL features, a lot of them, and they're really cool. And I think maybe we'll recap some of the other stuff that we had in progress for this quarter and talk about some updates there. And then also on the Grafana side. And I think I'll go ahead and share this here, but we have this agenda doc. So we have a couple of those things to talk about that I mentioned, but we can always talk about anything. So if you have any questions or, feedback about tempo, things like that, we're more than happy to talk about that. I think I'll go ahead and share my screen. I think that's a good way to kind of talk about these TraceQL features since they're text. Yeah. So I think these are all new. So these would be really cool since the last community call, but we had a lot of these TraceQL features. So one of them is select, and I can actually, let me click this up. So select is something that we've kind of been toying around with the language for a while, and it will let you bring back things to display in the table, attributes that maybe you don't want to filter on. So you just want to bring back whatever's there. And so there was a kind of workaround to do this before where you could, put a condition on that filter that didn't really do anything, like an integer greater than 0. But select, I think it turned out really cool. I'm happy we all like the language. I think it's easy to use, but it actually should be a little bit more performant than the original workaround we had, because the way we implemented it is it's only on the matches. So that's pretty cool. Whereas the other one would have been pushed all the way down and evaluated across everything. So yeah, so that's in there. Buy and coalesce. I don't actually think there's a good screenshot in here. But buy and coalesce are a way to group your spans while you're doing a query. So you could do like by namespace or by region or by URL. And so then you could evaluate conditions on just those subsets of groups. So that would be something cool, like if you wanted to see the number of calls per database or the average duration per API call or something like that within a trace. So that's really cool. And there's also going to be some upcoming front-end work to support this. So if you do by namespace and you're calculating something like the average duration per a namespace, will actually show that value on the traces result when you're looking at it. So you'll see, I don't have a good screenshot, but you'll see something, like your trace, and then each group for distinct value that was in that by will come back with the value that we had in there. This was really cool. This was a community contribution, and this was really cool, but we finally have the ability to invert a regex match, which was super cool. And so that was great. And to see that from the community was great. So that means I think we did, I'm really happy to see the involvement and just the usage of TraceQL and stuff like that. I think that's really cool. And then trace level intrinsics. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. These ones are also really cool. And so in the Parquet file, in the schema, we actually had a lot of columns that we weren't exposing to TraceQL yet. They were there, and we actually had them in the old search. So this was an area where we kind of took a step back with TraceQL, but we always wanted to get back in there. So things like trace duration, root service name, root name, these are trace level properties. So trace duration would be the earliest timestamp to the longest timestamp, and it doesn't have to have a single span that crosses. So that's something that is actually really useful. Service name and root span name are the top level root span if it exists. So these are really useful because they're also really fast. So these are really small columns. They just have one value per trace. So if they apply to your kind of the query that you're wanting to run, using these can really speed things up, and they're really cool. Yeah, so they just look like these new intrinsics here. Yeah, are there any other TraceQL features that I missed? Yeah, Mario, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually have a question. I didn't look into that. What's the behavior when there isn't a root span or there are multiple? Is it
If
defined or?
that's a good question. So trace duration doesn't have that issue because the way it's calculated is the
Right.
earliest start to the latest stop.
Mm-hmm.
So that one always has a value. For root service name, they probably are either empty strings or nil. Yeah, if there's not a root span. But yeah, we could look into that. I don't know. That's a good question, actually. um, yeah, I wish there was an example query, but you would do something like, right? So something like that would be really fast, is how you would access one of those intrinsics. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, I think this is cool because, I mean, this is all just done in the past month or so. So pretty fast speed there. Another change in the upcoming Tempo release, vParquet 2, that's been out there for a while, so we're going to go ahead and make that the default. I don't think there's any concerns. There's nothing really to note there. It does have some small schema changes that could improve or maybe negatively affect your compatibility with other Parquet tools. We were trying to improve compatibility, but we found out maybe it didn't. It helped some, but hurt some others. And then it has its dedicated duration column. So I would expect duration queries to be a little bit faster, but not significantly. Yeah. The streaming, I think we actually mentioned last call, but I wanted to mention, yeah. So just to recap that one though, is what it means is, where is that PR actually? Yeah, that PR has a really cool
Yeah.
video in it. That's what we want to
Yeah.
see.
I got it. 1 second. It's this pull request. Okay, I'll share my screen.
Sure. Yeah.
All right, my laptop is struggling, but I think. All right, so this is the pull request of the new streaming API being integrated into Grafana. And here is a quick demo of how it would look like. So as per usual, you just click on a query, and there is this new param stream response. And as you'll see, you'll get results right away. And as it starts getting more, it will just get streams over and over until you reach the whatever configured limits you have for that query. Yeah.
Yeah, this feature is really cool because there's sometimes a lot of results already, but they don't show up because we keep going until we hit the limit. And so this is really cool. Yeah, especially for those needle in the haystack queries that don't find a lot of results. And there's even some more UI improvements for that coming. But I guess, I don't know if they'll make it or not, but yeah, that'd be really cool. Yeah. And let's see. We kind of talked about this one last call a little bit, this dynamic metrics API. So I think we showed it off in the last call. So we won't go through it again here, but if you want to see a video of that, look at the recording for last month. But it's to calculate metrics over your traces, but you can use any TraceQL query in any attribute, resource level or span level. And so it's for cases where the cardinality of a traditional metric, the cardinality of that attribute is too high. So I put a couple examples in here, like IP address or user ID, or things like a GUID. It would be great for that. And so the way this will work is it's a part of the metrics generator. It will start, Zach, we actually need to put a design doc or something up in here. They would really help explain this. Yeah. But so it'll be a processor in the metrics generator, and then a new API that it exposes. And so going through this, that processor will have its own copy of the data. And so part of that is we're also planning to switch generators over from stateless to stateful, because they'll have a copy of the blocks. And if you were to lose that pod, it would lose that data. That data is in a different format than the normal block data. And so if we lose that, that data would be gone. So if they're stateful, then would be just like an ingester. So we could, kind of expect those changes to be like coming along with this feature. Fausto, which feature would be your favorite?
Yeah, calculating the high cardinality data on the fly. Like, yeah, I have so many use cases all the time. I built some like a small in-house tool to do this already, but it's not that nice because it's not that well integrated. But yeah, I would love to have this already within Tempo.
Yeah. No, that's great. So the kind of metrics that it would be generating are real simple to start. We're just doing like CAN metrics. So I think it's like P50, P90, 95, 99, errors, total span counts. Does that sound like something does that cover what you look at? Or like, I'd be interested to hear like what other kinds of things your in-house solution does right now.
For me, the most important is the count. The counts. Like for example, sometimes I see let's say I have a metric generator that have data metrics for all HTTP requests that we get, and then today I saw a huge spike. I said, "Oh, what is going on?" I work for RTL News, so it means RTL or published news. So it looks like we had some breaking news, right? And I wanted to see which URL is this one specifically that is causing all of this, right? Or if it's maybe an attack or something, like what is this, right? We have other tools to have this, but I would like to use our tracing tool because we have all data there also. And yeah, with the count, then I saw which article were having these spikes. And I think that was, I would like to have this with the tool. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. So this would just be an API on the Tempo backend. The Grafana frontend, I think, is still a ways away. I mean, it's still in the design phase, but the API would be there. Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely an exciting feature. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, no, thanks for that. That's really cool.
Yeah. So if you have any error, and you see, okay, I have this span with error, but what is common among all these spans that have this error? I want to find patterns. So sometimes I do have metric generators creating metrics for some of those attributes, but I don't have for all of them. Then with this, I can start like attributes per attribute and checking, oh, let's see if it's related to one user or to one article ID or something that might have high cardinality. So love that, yeah.
Yeah, cool. No, I think next call we should have documentation and some examples, things like that. Yeah, maybe a mock-up or something. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah. Okay, cool. Thanks for whoever added this link here for the Grafana front-end query builder. I wanted to show this off because I think this is new too. This thing here. So that's really cool. So we're kind of like replacing the old search tab with a new thing that works similarly, but it builds the TraceQL query for you. So this brings it much more in line with Loki and the Prometheus data sources, things like that. So I think this would be really cool. And also it's a really good way to like learn TraceQL, I think. So it kind of helps out for people that are just picking it up. And I have no idea what version of Grafana this is in, but it's cool.
I think it's going to go live with Grafana 10.
Okay, that's cool. Yeah, and this is another one. I couldn't remember if we'd highlighted this one, but this was really cool. So this is when you're looking at a trace. I wonder if I can zoom in on this. When you're looking at a trace, it's the ability. So if you have a very large trace, 100,000 spans, a million spans, it can be really hard to find what you're looking for. So this is the ability to filter down. Once you've loaded a trace, you can filter down those spans with these conditions. And so it's kind of like this little builder interface that's real similar to what the builder that we just saw. And there's this video here on this Grafana pull request that shows it off. So it's really cool.
Yeah, an improvement to that doesn't show in that demo is that now you can also remove the rest of the span. So for very, very large traces, even just highlighting, it's not enough. But yeah, now you can just remove like thousands of the spans and just show the ones for a service or whatever filter you use.
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I think this is really useful. Cool, yeah. And those are the front end changes that came to mind. Are there any more that I missed that would be useful to talk about here? So sometimes, this is a Tempo community call, but I think it's good to also look at the front end improvements because there's been a lot of them lately. And so that's like, we're all really excited about these front end improvements too. Cool. Well, if there's any more, we can add a link in here. Okay, so last time we talked about vParquet 3. I know we just made 2 the default, and we're already working on the next one. But now we put up Mario and Adrian have put up a design proposal. So if you want to know more specifics about the vParquet 3 format, you can click this, and it'll go into more depth about it. And so I think I'm really excited about this too. So these will have the ability to create dedicated columns for some of your attributes. And so that'll massively speed up TraceQL queries for those attributes. Yeah, and I think it'll be really cool. Yeah, Mario, is there anything you'd like to talk about this design proposal or anything?
Yeah, I mean, I can quickly describe it. So yeah, we already talked about vParquet 3. Yeah, there is a rendered version. You can click on the description. But yeah, so the TLDR of this new version is for Parquet, we have a static schema, and we defined a set of arbitrary attributes to be moved to dedicated columns. Now we want to do that now dynamically because that's the attributes that we chose not necessarily work for everyone. So we want to be able to configure that dynamically at runtime. So if you're searching very frequently for a very specific attribute, you can say like promote that attribute to a dedicated column. So now searches by that attribute are way faster. Another thing that we found is that you don't even need to do a in-depth analysis of query patterns. Just taking the top 10 attributes or like top 10 that take more space in the block just results in massive increases in the speed because you're reducing the amount of data on this array of key values that you're searching for, and you're making the block smaller. So basically, you just have to read less data. And then, yeah, just to wrap up, I encourage everyone to take a look, even if you don't feel like you're gonna comment on anything. This is kind of the first step on a bigger change we want to do in Parquet. Ideally, in the future, we would like to have everything dynamic. So it's the schema is more flexible. So this is kind of like the first iteration on on making Parquet more dynamic. So I think it's like a good starting point if you want to follow this development for months to come. Yeah, so just encourage everyone to take a look, and if you have any feedback, it's welcome.
Oh, I mean, you all are already moving really quickly. There's a first draft PR up, which was awesome. Total surprise to, I think, the rest of us that it was moving that quickly.
Yeah.
So there's 10 columns at each level, 10 resource columns, 10 span columns, and they can be mapped to anything. And then even if it's an attribute you don't query on, it can still be helpful because it pulls it away from the attributes you do use. Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, that was one of the most interesting findings. Is Adrian did a analysis over some blocks that we had, and yeah, just like the simplest solution, which is just taking the attributes that take the most space, results in massive increases in speed, up to like 80%, even if you're not querying by those, just by having to search over less data.
Yeah, that is great. Okay, cool. I think that covers everything that we thought of. Anyone have anything else that they want to talk about, or any questions, Fausto? Anything else you want to share or ask us about?
Yeah, actually, yes. It's about the metrics. It's about the metric generator. I wonder, like, it was for some time ago, but after we migrate from 1.5 to 2.1, we saw that like a big increase in memory. Is this something that you also see in your own deployments?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's an area that we still want to profile and optimize in. I mean, I will say that I don't think we've done a lot of work optimizing the metrics generator, and so there's probably a lot of room for improvement. But yeah, it's hard to say like if how the memory would have changed from 1.5 to 2 on. At least I'm not close enough to that. Maybe Mario, if you have any ideas, but
Yeah, I was trying to recall on what changes might have caused that increase in memory, and like from the top of my head, I don't think we've made any significant changes that resulted in more memory usage. Yeah, I don't know. I will have to review the list. We've been making a lot of changes to generate for the metrics. We're making changes to some metrics, but most of them, if not all, are hidden behind feature flags. We will now generate a new metric called target info, but that's behind a feature flag. And all of these new changes will incur in more memory usage. But yeah, if you have them disabled, I don't think we've made any changes. Maybe Jenny or Zach, of some changes, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, we did. Well, I did change one thing on how we store the hash of the labels. Sorry, so we used to only hash based on, I think, value of labels, but now because all the labels were the same, but now that the labels can be dynamic, we're hashing on both the labels and the value. So it might cause a, when I checked it in ops, we saw very minimal increase in memory, so I didn't bring it up. But there was some, but very minimal, not even 1% on our side.
so I will say that we have had good success using Go mem limit on the generator pods because it seems like they will kind of like grow in memory maybe more than expected, but Go Memlet does a good job of keeping them alive, and they're really stable after that. So if your problem is zooms, I might try that.
Perfect. Thanks.
Yeah, I agree, Marty. This might be an area we want to kind of dig into and optimize, find some areas, do some profiling.
Yeah, I think so, because this new dynamic metrics feature just makes them even more resource hungry. So it is something that would be good to look into. Yeah. Okay. Well, cool. If there's nothing else, I guess we can wrap up. Yeah, no, this was definitely jam-packed month with features. So the upcoming tempo release is going to be huge, but I think we're a little bit too early to start talking about 2.2 specifically. But it's already shaping up to be a great release, I think. So yeah, that's okay. Yeah, so I think it's exciting. Well, cool. All right, everyone. Well, thanks for joining, and we'll see you next month. Okay.
All right. Bye, everybody.
Okay. See ya.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.
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 Thanks.